The new season is less than a month away and moves are being made. Let's talk about them. It's Wednesday and Max Simpson is not here. Once again.
I don't know when I'm going to see him again.
We don't know when we're going to see him again. Welcome into the PHNX Rising Show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Remember, you can join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. Participating locations, visit circlek.com for details. I am Owen Evans. That is Rees Goodall. There is no Max Simpson. We do have producer Kyle, though, as well. But no Max, again.
I don't know.
The man's in hiding.
Where is he? Where in the world is Max Simpson?
Is Max... I mean, has something happened to him?
We don't know.
We don't know. Kyle, what's going on? Where's Max?
Ever since we had the food snake draft, the pizza
toppings, one, yeah.
I haven't seen Max at all.
He's been gone. Where is he?
Weirdly absent.
Where is Max Simpson?
I think he'll come back when Tottenham win a trophy. So,
well, that'd be never.
Yeah, exactly. We'll never see him again. I'm worried about it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, listen, Tottenham's terrible. We can say it now. He's not
we
here.
can.
He's not here to defend
they're
them.
awful. But where's Max?
Coping.
He's coping.
He's
not coping very well.
I mean, there's a lot to cope about when you're a Tottenham fan. It's just every day, it's more and more.
It's true. Well, the hunt for Max will start. Where is Max Simpson as a new segment? Maybe we'll have to do it. Maybe we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Have you seen this ad, man?
Is he in Albuquerque? Is he vacationing there?
Could he be in Albuquerque? Could he be somewhere else? Could he be... I don't know. I mean, there's Spurs hate in the chat right now, which, yes, correct.
There always should be.
There always should be. No, I don't think he is. I don't think he is prepping for his wedding in there. I mean,
he did post about it on his LinkedIn. I did see that. Max
would be the guy that. Yeah. Yeah. That's on brand for Max Simpson. But is it him posting it? Could it be an imposter?
Could be.
It could be.
The eyes, his eyes didn't quite look brown enough.
Could it be AI? Is it AI?
I wouldn't put it past Max.
But no, I'm saying, is it Max or is it an imposter?
That is true. Yeah.
Where is Max? Right, we've got actual football stuff to talk about today. We're going to let Max take up a tiny little bit of our time there. We do have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to be talking about Phoenix Rising, their friendly against Charlotte earlier this week. We're going to be talking about some of the transfers that are being made across USL Championship. Some interesting news dropping today and over the past few days and weeks and months as well. And we are going to be talking a little bit about the US Women's National Team. The squad announced to this week for the upcoming SheBelieves Cup, which will involve a game here in Glendale when they take on Australia. So we've got a lot of things to talk about in Max's absence.
And he's not here for any of it.
He's not here for any of it. He's not.
You think he's even listening?
I bet you he isn't.
Yeah.
Max, if you're listening, comment in the chat. Come on, Max. He's not listening, is he? He's not. There's a shake of the head there from producer.
Breaks my heart.
He's gone.
Breaks my heart.
Mr. Vacations.
Mr. Vacations. Have you seen this ad, man? We may need to start that campaign.
I bet he shows up during the ad breaks.
I bet. He probably does.
Yeah.
He probably does. It's the only thing. He's got us on mute.
It's like his bat
as
signal.
The ads come on. Bat signal for Max, yeah. I can see that. Right, let's get on to the football. Phoenix Rising playing Charlotte FC on Monday over in Coachella. Another behind closed doors friendly. They lose it 3-2. Rees, just off of the very kind of base level, what we've seen, what we've taking out of that? What are the main things to talk about, do you think, out of that game?
I believe it was a Noble Okello brace, but we only saw the one goal. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's, I believe, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, which is always the fun of these friendlies. The 3 goals that Rising conceded, there's only so much you can take out of it because the longest clip is 11 seconds. So there's not really the context of the play, but I don't know. It feels like there were a couple again, taking this like with a grain of salt, but just a few moments of just not great defending and just not great goalkeeping led to the 3 goals. I think Tristan Henry could have done better on the second one where he the rebound, or he saves the first shot and the rebound just goes right back to whatever the Charlotte FC player was there. It's just one where the initial shot just doesn't come in with that much pace to force a rebound. And if it does force a rebound, you need to parry that away somewhere else, just not directly to the Charlotte FC player. But again, there's just not much you can really take out of these 4-second clips.
Yeah, I think the main thing to add on here, look, let's talk the big picture. Scoring 2 goals against an MLS team, good form for preseason. Again, it comes with a caveat. We don't know entirely who's out on the pitch. We don't know all of the details around it. It's hard to tell exactly who's playing well, who's not playing well in games like this because so little of that information is put out there. But regardless, 2 goals against MLS opposition is a positive sign. It is a positive start to be able to do that in some of these games. The concern comes, of course, the other end. Now, on the one hand, you say it's an MLS team you're playing in a friendly. Of course, you're not expecting the world out of this team. 3 goals conceded against these does not really tell you necessarily a whole lot. I do think the videos, while you are right, there's so much context that's missing as well. I don't think they show the defense in the best of lights between the defending and the goalkeeping. I mean, the first one just appears to be a completely misread ball that bounces off the post and trickles in. It's just one of those crosses across the face of goal where it's kind of just completely misread almost and allowed to go in a fashion that I think if it happened in a competitive fixture, you kind of look at it and go, that's a pretty comical goal to concede. The second one, you're right. I think it needs to be a bit better at just holding the ball in those moments. That can be a thing, especially with goalkeepers at this level. I mean, we all remember Rambo with the constant catch it. That he would often shout at the goalkeepers when they were training, right? You get frustrated that they'd often parry or punch when they should be just collect the ball. And then the third goal is just one where it feels like there's a whole host of bodies in the penalty area and it just kind of gets through. Look, I mean, you put this in the context. Last season, Rising played Charlotte. That was another game that I feel like there were a lot of comments on was the caliber of goalkeeping, especially in that one, particularly up to scratch. I also think that there's an element to you have to consider how does it all come together now over the next few weeks? It's obviously still relatively early. There's still obviously a lot of work going on between these players. And last year, Rising struggled against Charlotte, I think, at times defensively, and yet turned out to be a team that was pretty decent defensively. So you can't take these friendlies as the most important thing in terms of have they performed well enough? Is that going to dictate what your season looks like? But you also have to, I think, consider realistically as you look at this, where are those steps for improvement, which there are inevitably going to be some. And now you're halfway through your preseason fixtures.
I mean, through this one game alone, Rising scored twice as many goals in preseason as they did in their 6 games from last season. So, I mean, again, it doesn't really mean much, but improvements sometimes, I guess. You take your small wins. But I did just take a look at the goal. It was a good run down the left-hand side and then just a ball across goal and then an easy tap-in for Noble Okello. He's wearing the 8 shirt. I don't know if that means anything or if they just numbered it 1 through 11 or if that is that a role he'll playing? Exactly.
It's preseason. Numbers, shirts.
None of it means anything. I mean, sometimes you see teams don't even have numbers on. You remember Portland last year? They didn't even have numbers on the back.
That's very true, yes.
But that'd be interesting to see if he does kind of suit up in that role, that more box-to-box midfielder. It was just a simple finish, so you can't really compliment too much of the goal-scoring ability. But again, it's nice to see goals go in the back of the net compared to this time last year.
It is, and I mean, Again, there are a lot of factors that go into it, especially with preseason, what teams' priorities are in games, how that impacts the way that they ultimately play, the way that these results come out, because fundamentally no one's playing for results in these games.
Mm-hmm.
They're entirely playing for certain incremental progress that they're looking for in that game. And if the focus is on something that's likely to lead to, maybe at times you're better in the attack than you are defensively, that can sometimes just be the case. It's the nature of these friendlies. You're not always working on everything at the same time. You've got 6 friendlies, I believe they have this preseason to put things together to try and work out where they want to be. And things get easier from here, right? So you have to be clear on that. Phoenix Rising have played some difficult opponents so far. 3 MLS teams, obviously the San Diego expansion team. They played against LAFC and now Charlotte FC. All 3 of them are MLS teams. The next game's against Phoenix College. So a little bit of a step down in that one. Now, if you tell me that they're going to go out and they're going to lose to Phoenix College, that's where you start going, hang on a minute. What's going on here? But realistically, again, the biggest challenge was kind of just finding ways to incrementally improve across these games going forward, and not worry too much about the scorelines, not worry too much about if you're conceding goals. Obviously, that's something that will happen in games like this against better opponents. The fact they're scoring goals is an improvement on last year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these friendlies are just kind of building your ideals, building chemistry between the players. I mean, that Phoenix College one realistically is going to end in a rout for Rising. Hopefully it does, but it should be. I mean, you see it in.
I don't believe it was that convincing last year.
Really,
from what I gather.
Interesting, but I mean, like you saw it in the GCU friendlies that Rising used to play every year. Those games would just be completely uncompetitive, but it's just Rising.
But only at times. Even then, there were times where GCU.
Yeah, but it was more like Rising would put 4 or 5 past, and then John Becerra would try to fight one of the GCU players.
That's some memories from preseason right now. That's memories from preseason.
But you're not concerned.
That's what we're missing. That's what we're missing.
The free GCU friendly is peak preseason football. I mean, it's just you turn up the day of, or like I remember the one year they announced it on the day of that it was free, and then it's just amazing.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing quite as amusing as seeing the load of banditos there drinking, setting off smoke in the stands as a GCU tour goes past.
Yeah.
That's always quite the sight to see. But yeah, I mean, that's just, it's those kind of games are always a bit of fun. I mean,
preseason heritage.
Preseason in Tucson hasn't been, there were no
yeah.
real games down there this year. It was all behind closed doors. But again, it was something that just fans would make the trip down there. I mean, I remember going down there and seeing Rising, I think it was against RSL, ending in a massive brawl that saw Darnell King getting sent off in stoppage time in the second half as he kind of went off on a rant, like an expletive-filled rant about how they think they're something because they're MLS. It was right. These are just some of the fun moments we've seen in preseason. Obviously, we haven't had the chance to see the team quite like this so far, but that's going to be, it's not far away. It's not far away. Obviously, season ticket members will be allowed to go to the St. Louis City 2 match, which is coming up on February 22nd in an afternoon game. So that one not too far away. Just about a week and a half away, and you'll get to see them in action. And then, of course, the Red vs. Black game, which will serve as the kit reveal match as well, revealing the kits during a match. So,
are they going to do like a fashion show before the match? Like,
I would imagine no. That would be a bit weird.
Yeah, it would be, but
that would be very weird. As that will be Rising's final public kind of tune-up before FC Tulsa. Obviously, it's a bit of an asterisk there because it's an intra-squad friendly more than it is a real friendly against another opponent. So it's the kind of thing you'll see perhaps even on the training ground, to be honest. Just one of those. But it'll be interesting, I think, to see overall. I saw a lot of the players tweeting from the club's account on the weekend saying good things about the kits. I'm not sure if I should have expected much else than those kind of comments. But
I mean, it is Adidas still, so I don't know if I,
those
what
Adidas templates.
Yeah, what do they look like? But
we'll see.
I mean, sometimes they don't look half bad. Like the 23 red and black stripe, that one was good, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the end of the day, it's bland.
Make sure to
basic.
leave a like. Max isn't here, but he's still telling you to leave a like. At the bottom of the screen here, that's Max seriously telling you leave a like. Look how aggressive he looks in that.
Miss him so much.
We really upset you with that one, haven't we?
I know.
A reminder that Max Simpson is not here.
It's just heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. I'm not sure I'd go that far. But, I mean, you can if you want, Rees.
It's just, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, indeed. Well, you know what? It's fine. Don't worry. It's fine. The season's coming soon. That'll be the distraction. That'll be a distraction. As soon as there's football to watch and talk about, we won't have to talk about Max's disappearance anymore, will we?
We will be there.
We will be there. We will be there as the new season kicks off in just a few weeks' time with Parmadou Car at the wheel for Phoenix Rising. We'll be talking in a minute about some of the moves going on around other parts of the USL Championship. But first, while Parmadou Car may be at the wheel for Phoenix Rising, you can let the Waymo driver take the wheel for you as you're looking to get around the valley. Now, one of the fun things, we were talking a little bit last week about Waymo. Rees, I know you are that guy who gets in, who puts the tunes on, and you are singing at the top of your voice.
Yeah. Titanium by Sia, Stephen Bunting style.
You're doing it Stephen Bunting
style.
That's the way.
That is absolutely the way.
You are screaming that in the Waymo.
Who isn't? Any sequence of events, I'm singing that.
That's how he gets himself hyped. That's how he gets himself ready for a Phoenix Rising match. You can too. Obviously, Phoenix Rising Stadium within the Waymo service area here in the Valley. So it's a nice, comfortable way to get yourself out to a game at 38th Street and Washington. You can download the Waymo One app right today. And just like Rees, you can sing along to whatever song you choose at the top of your lungs, yeah?
Absolutely. But make sure it's Stephen Bunting's Walk On.
Okay, there we go. Right. And Phoenix Rising have a road trip coming up the second week of the season. It's over in El Paso. And if you're heading out over that way, because it's drivable, it's not that far away, make sure you're filling up over at Circle K. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to sign up for the Inner Circle program. It is completely free. All you have to do, you download the app, you enter your email and phone number, and then after that, you're going to save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups and 3 cents per gallon every day thereafter. They have all other kinds of deals as well on the good stuff. I know Rees was knocking back one of those Circle K meat sticks earlier. I'm sure he's going to have to go out and get himself a Polar Pop later as well. And make sure, again, if you haven't already done so, go ahead, join the Inner Circle app for free by downloading the Circle K app today. And of course, terms and conditions apply at participating locations, and visit circlek.com for details. Right. Leave a like. See, Max is telling you once again, leave a like. Look how aggressive he is.
I'm speechless every time I see it.
You know what? When we talk about things that people like, transfers, people like transfers, people like rumors.
Yeah. Soccer guys.
This one, moving on a little bit now, it's not so much of a rumor anymore. There was the rumor, of course, from Rumors account as well. We love that Rumors account, don't we?
Was it Soccer Guy 1874 or something like that?
1974, I think.
1974.
There we go. Soccer Guy 1974 tweeting about a month ago now that Phoenix Rising was set to sign Cal Jennings. Well, according to Tom Boggart, that is not true. And why is it not true? Because Cal Jennings is going over to Charleston. Big move.
Big move.
Big move.
Cal Jennings, I mean, it's a name that I think a lot of Rising fans will recognize because of his time with Vegas, where him and Danny Trejo just kind of, they'd lose every game against Rising 6-3, but they'd score the 3 goals. And then he was with Tampa Bay most recently. It was kind of a weird season for that Tampa Bay team where, yes, Cal Jennings did have a good year in terms of like his goal numbers, his and then his 2 seasons there, 34 and 64. But they weren't clinical at all last season, and that really cost them a lot. I mean, not just Jennings, the whole team. But Charleston needed to make a signing after Nick Markanek left, and I think this is probably the best guy you could get from within USL. besides maybe Wilson Harris, who's obviously gone to Israel now, but it is a good signing from Charleston.
Yeah, let's have a look at some of the moves that Charleston have made so far this offseason. And we're going to be doing this for a few clubs now, and we'll be also moving on as well to other teams around the league as the preseason progresses. Obviously, you mentioned Nick Marcanic. That's a huge one. Heading over to Spain. When he left, he leaves for a big fee, yes. Mm-hmm. You have to make a statement if you are Charleston. You have to show that you can go out and you can replace him. And that's what Cal Jennings is in this case, right? He's someone who I do think that, when you put things together in terms of was he as clinical last year as you'd have wanted? No, but he's done so much in terms of just over the course of his career in USL Championship, finding ways to find the net at different clubs, and he is going to be, I think, a really, really big part, you'd have thought, of that Charleston team. Douglas Martinez, another person that's coming in. He's coming in from Indy 11. That one, interesting one. Again, someone who's played a while in this league.
Yeah, I mean, he's with San Diego, with Sacramento, and then with Indy last year. Not the most clinical of forwards. I mean, more of a winger, but still, it offers Charleston a forward which they've needed. I'm surprised MD Myers and Jackson Conway both came back to this team. Conway, a former Rising player, but really didn't do much here besides get an elbow a Tampa Bay player and get sent off. But I wonder what those two players' roles are going to be, because they weren't great last season. The bulk of their goals obviously came from Marcanic, who won the league's MVP. But I'm just surprised to see those two return. Picking up Douglas Martinez, though, will bolster their attack. For the departures, though, they obviously Marcanic and then Jay Chapman and Robbie Crawford, two midfielders. Chapman's gone on to Detroit. Crawford still without a club.
Well, as we see in the chat as well, you got to consider the fact that Jesus coming in from New Mexico as well. That's another interesting part there in the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, New Mexico's also had an interesting offseason, not in terms of ins, just because of the players they've lost.
And the coach.
Yeah, I forgot about that. This offseason moves so slowly sometimes, you just kind of forget some of the biggest moves.
It is a weird one, isn't it? I feel like that's largely because obviously you don't have the buzz that you get following most leagues around this, around the world over the off season. It tends to just kind of have that little moves go under the radar a little bit. But
you mean it doesn't break the internet like New Mexico's one sign? Who did they sign? I think it wasn't a nobody, but he did nothing.
Wasn't it the Pittsburgh guy that kicked someone in the back of the head?
Was it? I know they did sign that guy.
I forget his name off the top of my head, but I'm 90% sure it was. I forget his name. Oh, you've stumped me, Rees. I forgot. You've stumped me. Oh wow, you've really stumped me. Romeo Parks.
Was it? Yeah. That sounds familiar, yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Break the internet.
I'm sure that was the one that broke the internet, wasn't it?
Or was it
broke the internet, quote unquote. But I may be wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, hyping up a signing like that to break the internet. I mean, I know they did sign Jedion Zelam today, but I'm going to be honest, as an Arsenal fan, when I was 8 years old, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, seeing a FUT card that had an American, wearing an Arsenal shirt, but it just worked out poorly his whole career.
There we go. Move on a bit, because there was another acquisition that came out today, and we're going to take a look then over at Oakland Roots and what they've been doing, because the news coming in today that Jürgen Damm, coming up from Mexico, he is 32, but he's got about 12 caps from Mexico, so that's an interesting move, and they've just had a very interesting offseason.
Yeah, I mean, Damm's going to be the one that stands out more, but it is interesting. Tigres played a lot there, played for Atlanta United. I'm intrigued by this one on what he really is this stage of his career, if he's coming to Oakland and not trying to find somewhere in either Liga MX or the Expansión League. But that's interesting. And then the one that obviously stands out is the one at the top of the list, Panos Armenakis. I mean, everyone here is familiar with him, what he can do. Didn't have the easiest of seasons last year, as we all know, and then Memphis just kind of didn't click there. But I think that Oakland team moving into the Coliseum, clearly spending some money on signings, they're going to be very interesting.
It is interesting. And I think with Panos, again, you get to the heart of just kind of, look, when this guy is playing at his best, he is up there.
Mm-hmm.
Among players in the league, he is up there.
Mm-hmm.
His signing for Oakland was a statement for that club. It's alongside things like capturing Abdi Mohamed in there as well. There are moves that they're making that are interesting moves. Moving on from players like, I mean, we brought up Blanchette there on that list, and when you think about Blanchette, obviously for him to move on, you know, he's been a pretty big part of their team for a few years now there, and really an interesting one to part ways with him.
Yeah, I mean, he always had the trouble of playing the ball with his feet. He was a great shot stopper, but when it came to passing, he always struggled with. I do like bringing in Kendall McIntosh there for Oakland. Was with San Antonio last year. Was with Soren KC a little bit before that. I do think they did a good job replacing him. The other name we had on that list for the outs was now Logue, who has been around this league. I think he's played for like 5 teams in the last 5 years, but he's been a solid defender. Was with Hartford a couple years right before that, but just didn't really click last year in Oakland. Like really the whole roster, to be honest.
Right, and there's one other team we're going to highlight today as we do a little kind of roundup in terms of who's coming in, who's going out, and that is someone else that we think is really making a statement here in terms of the moves they've made this offseason. It's going to be pretty obvious, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Who is it, Rees?
I actually can't remember. I'm not going to lie.
Who's making a statement, Rees?
I cannot remember.
Rees, it's on the screen in front of you. You can't read it from that distance. We're going to talk about
Birmingham. I don't know why I was saying like San Antonio. I'm like, what?
Rees,
yeah,
Rees, this was probably the most obvious team that have made a statement this offseason. And why? It's because predominantly of 2 attacking players they've brought in. Ronaldo Damas, yes, it says he's from Switchbacks because he's on loan from elsewhere, but realistically, he was with Switchbacks last year. Danny Trejo coming in from Poland. That is a pairing that I think just, again, you don't really want to face.
It's lethal. I mean, it's how good they're going to be in the final third if it all clicks there is going to be insane. I do think it is a bit of a boom or bust with how much they're spending, but I mean, I think the quality's there. You kind of have to make that move. I mean, it's probably, I imagine it's going to be Trejo more on the left, and then Damas has that just pure 9, but regardless of how you set it up, that is going to be a very dangerous attack. And then Steven Turnbull was with Rhode Island last year, not nearly the same quality as the other 2 I mentioned, but more of a defender, just adds some solidity to their back line, which they do have some decent pieces there, but that's just one that pushes them forward.
Look, is this a perfectly rounded Birmingham Legion team? No, there are still questions about parts of it, maybe the midfield. But at the same time, in the nicest possible way, when you've got that kind of firepower up top, it's going to let you hang in games. This isn't a league that is always necessarily the one that rewards the prettiest football. It is one that's going to reward you if you can score a lot of goals. Most leagues around the world work that way, to be perfectly honest. And right now, when you look at Birmingham Legion, when you look at the players that they've brought in, you just have to think, well, they've got a real chance of, I think, taking a big step up from what they were last year, which is a team that missed the playoffs last year.
It's an approach in my eyes that, you know, they'd rather win games 5-4 than 1-0. And I think most people do kind of agree with that. They want the entertaining style, but I really think this is like really delving more into the like extreme side of it. But I do think Birmingham Legion is going to be a very, very exciting team to watch next year, which they need.
Sly in the chat saying he's got a rising jersey, and guess what number? I haven't. Is there a what would you guess, Rees?
What jersey number did Gerald wear last year? Like 71?
There we go.
71.
There we go. There's a guess. There's a guess, and he is still 71, by the way. You'd get a 71, wouldn't you, Rees?
Who wouldn't?
There we go. Rees knows what he's talking about. If we scroll back up the chat a little bit here, there was a comment here, and I just kind of want to get on on this one. It's a little bit further up from Ewan in there. Should the Eastern Conference just become its own league? I'm following on from the Birmingham Legion point. That's kind of something that I wanted to bring up because it's a conversation I've had a few times with different people over the last few days. Is that just wow? The Eastern Conference is really just on a different level right now. The top teams in the East are. It's just very, very good.
I mean, Rhode Island, we didn't even mention them. I mean, they brought in Maxi Rodriguez, who that is a
team
signing.
that won the Eastern Conference in their first season.
Tampa Bay, yes, they lost so many pieces, but they've done a good job in my eyes filling in. And then Miami, I know it's crazy to shout out Miami at any stage of the offseason, but they're making signings that they're not like world class, but they're names. They're Jonathan Ricketts.
We've not even mentioned yet. We're talking about teams that are good in that conference. We haven't even mentioned Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville City, are they going to be a little bit weaker than they were last year? Potentially. But they've still made, I mean, you look at bringing guys like Kev Lambert in, okay? When you lose a midfielder and then you go, okay, that's fine. We're going to bring in an established, well-known player in this league who has gotten the chance to move up. And he may not have gotten his chance really to play at the next level, but definitely was obviously on the radar with the next level in order to even secure that move in the first place. So they're a team that just, I mean, look, it's standard Louisville City. It looks like a team that's just going to be consistently good going into the next season. And yes, there's a bit of change there that they're going to have to try and overcome, but it's going to be an interesting season for them again as well. But again, you look at that kind of just full list then, okay? So Louisville, you look at Charleston, Birmingham Legion now are in that conversation, Rhode Island, you look at Tampa Bay. I mean, I'm just listing teams off right now. And when you compare that, and this is where kind of the point comes in, you compare that to the Western Conference right now, who is having that kind of an ambitious offseason that some of these teams have had, who is necessarily at the level that these teams are consistently at the moment. Because I don't think there's that many, right? You look at Colorado Springs, who won it last year. I think they've dropped off a fair bit. I'm not entirely sure what their team's going to look like this coming season, but they're missing a few pieces that were pretty important to them last year. You look at, other teams like Sacramento, I guess, are probably one of the better teams in the West at the moment. New Mexico, even as you said earlier, Rees, there are going to be questions over quite what they look like going into this one. They got a new coach as well. They've got some changes in the playing staff as well. And quite frankly, in the nicest possible way, and I mean this nicely to New Mexico, they outperformed what they should have done last year. They overperformed. They were a team that played very well as a unit, but can you then replicate that outside of the scenario that they were in last season? Can you do that again? That's going to be the big question for them. Vegas, are Vegas going to be as good as they were last year? It's a big question mark, right? You look at the West. I mean, Oakland obviously are making some statements of intent, but how it comes together, we're going to have to see. We've never seen Oakland be particularly good in this league. It's going to be a very interesting year where I feel as though there is a big imbalance between the East and the West, at least at the top end. I don't think it's particularly comparable. But it's very easy to say these things now. Could a Western team win it? Yes, of course they could, because there's one thing we know about this league. Home teams typically have a big advantage. When the final comes around, they do have an advantage there. And if the East happens to beat each other up at the top of the table and the West doesn't do that, you could be in a position whereby the Western Conference is hosting the playoff final come November. That's really the question for me. And I think it's going to be overall an interesting one to see particularly how the interplay between the East and the West plays out over the coming season.
I bet Lexington is just glad they got put in the West and not the East.
Oh, they've got a much easier time of it in the West.
Yeah. I mean, I do.
And that's actually the thing here now. And here's a perfect example, right? The obvious talk, if you weren't going to have Lexington in the West, in the Western Conference, and they were put in the East, which I think we all somewhat thought they were going to be, because you'd want to put them with Louisville. You probably put Birmingham Legion then in the West. They're probably the one that makes the most sense out of those teams based on the lack of specifically obvious geographic rivals. In fact, their geographic rival actually was playing in the West last year before they folded.
Rest in peace.
And if Birmingham Legion were put in this Western Conference as is right now, do they win the Western Conference? Regular season? Ignore the playoffs. The playoffs are the playoffs can be messy. Bad things, weird things can happen. We just took we took 34 games from March to October. Do Birmingham Legion win the Western Conference? Do they as the number 1 seed?
I think they score the most goals in the conference, but I don't know if they particularly win it just because
Are they top 3?
I think they're top 3, yeah. I think winning it, like, you have to be such a well-rounded roster in this league where, like, every piece... And I know New Mexico
right
really
now?
wasn't.
Who is that right now?
I really don't know.
That's almost my point here, is that I don't know who that is in the West right now.
Because
when you don't know who that is in the West, you kind of then defer to things like, well, if they score a lot of goals, if there's no one that's that well-rounded, it's probably going to go to the team that scores the most goals.
I mean, I'm just looking through each team's offseason right now. I'm struggling to think of who would really be up there. I mean, I'm Vegas. I mean, they've retained a good number of guys and brought in Knight Pickering and some other pieces, but they've obviously got a new coach. I mean, I do think he wasn't in a great position last year with Miami, where
they don't have Corey Bennett.
Yeah, they did lose Corey Bennett, but I think. I don't know. I really don't know who that top team in the West right now. I don't know who the top. I don't know. It's
hard, isn't it?
I like some of the moves for switchbacks, like bringing in Marco Micheletto, but they still need to replace Damas any way possible. I mean, I know that's not really. You're never going to find a 1-for-1 for Ronaldo Damas, but finding a better option than Justin Dillon at the moment. What is key to Colorado Springs really having a good season this year, in my opinion. But I really don't know.
It's going to be an interesting season.
A lot of teams are maybe a couple of signings away from people changing the way we look at them. But this late, I don't know if that's coming still for these teams.
That's the thing, right? Most of these teams are at best going to have 1 or 2 signings, I think, between now and the end of the end of preseason. Sly says we need to bring in 7 new players. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh wow. But I just this Western Conference right now is to me such an intriguing proposition. I'm really interested to see the first projections that John Morrissey puts out of the season. I think that's going to be intriguing to me, to see where he stacks them up based on the players, based on how their backgrounds kind of come together. Obviously, that's easier for some teams than others. I think Rising's gotten a lot of players from outside of USL, so I don't know. Maybe you got to have that little twist in there of you don't entirely know how they're going to interchange, and especially when next pro is one thing, but when you bring in the guy who is your presumptive number 9. From the Challenge League, you don't see a whole lot of interplay between teams from there. You don't see a whole lot of movement of players among those. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's another thing is like when teams bring in guys from Europe, yes, they kind of come in with like an extra layer of expectation on them, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what they are until you see them play in this league compared to guys from Next Pro where you can cross-reference things, but the European players it's hard to really assume what they are at this stage.
Yeah, it is. And again, right, you look at Isam Sako, he's getting good reviews from what we hear, but until you get the chance to see him in competitive fixtures, the amount that you can really judge is quite limited at this point. So we'll have to see on that. Any last thoughts right now on the state of the transfer market right now?
It's just going to be an interesting season.
You know what we do need to shout out? Solomon Asante.
Oh, yeah, to Texoma. Yeah. I heard that and I thought it was a joke. Because I feel like Texoma's kind of, it's like, I don't really think of them as real.
You'd heard this before it came out, as had I. And it didn't really shock me.
It's not the League One. I think it's the fact that it's Texoma of all clubs. Because
I don't.
It's just, I think I can't wrap my head around a club being in Sherman, Texas. And
that's the thing. I have my concerns about Texoma in the first place. I can guarantee you that, I mean, look, I looked at how you get there for obvious reasons, given that Rising are playing away there. And they don't have an airport. They don't have any kind of real transport to get you there. You'd have to fly into Dallas, rent a car and drive up. And I can't say that sounds particularly appealing. I mean,
Really?
does that sound appealing to you, Rees?
Not in the slightest.
Not in the slightest. You don't want to go to Sherman, Texas.
I do not. But
Is this now the Sherman, Texas hate pod?
Well, it just seems like a joke to me. Like, I like, no offense to the people of Sherman, Texas, but
They've also got a Swansea man for their manager,
Really?
ex-Swansea player.
Oh, well, so now that you've got a reason to not like him, but
Hey, I'm not holding it against him.
I don't know. It's just there's something like their home kit they dropped, beautiful. The red and white stripes, absolutely beautiful. But it's just like I just can't wrap my head around a club in that region of the country. I don't know
Why?
it's just well,
What is it that you have about Sherman, Texas?
I think it's like the most random place anyone could like mention.
Well, isn't that League One though? Most of
I
League
know,
One
but
is
still.
pretty random.
But like you look at some of the other clubs in that league, like Knoxville, Spokane, like those are both like they have big colleges there. So like I know what they are. Like Knoxville has Tennessee, Spokane has Gonzaga. So like
Right, but
I know,
outside of the colleges, that's kind of what, Naples, Florida.
yeah, that one like confuses me too. I'm not gonna lie. Like a lot of this like phase of expansion
Statesboro,
sides
Georgia.
don't exist to me.
Statesboro, Georgia.
Westchester SC, like what is that?
It's Westchester.
Yeah, it's just
I don't know what
these
to say
clubs
to you,
aren't real
mate.
to me.
It's-
They're not real to me.
Yeah, I mean,
AV Alta, like
yeah, why not? Why not?
I mean, I'm not hating on League One growing. It's just like these random.
Why can't these places have teams, Reese? And in fairness, AV, right? You look at Lancaster, it does
That
have
is a bigger
a
market,
population
yeah.
of about 170,000 people. You compare that to Sherman, which, I mean, I guess if you consider the whole region, it would probably be a little bit bigger. But Sherman itself has a population of about 45,000, which
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Grayson
intrigued to
County,
see
the
what-
county it's in has a population of 135,000.
And I'm intrigued to see what attendances are like there, but
I'm
if
intrigued.
any, but
I'm intrigued. We'll see. But yeah, interesting move. Solomon Asante still playing.
I like to see him play, but like I think everyone here loves Solomon Asante for I mean, legend, probably if not the best one of if not the best USL players of all time. I mean, in terms of individual seasons, his 2019 year is the best for any player. But yeah, everyone here I'm just glad to see him still play.
I will also say, by the way, for Texas,
Oh my
they
gosh.
are playing in a high school football stadium.
Their broadcasts are going to be unreal. I will be tuning in now.
There we go. I know this man is really excited about that one. Of course he should be. You know, the future is bright for USL League One, right?
It is. I mean, they announced a
is.
new expansion side. Feels like once a month.
There we
so-
go. When we come back, we'll be talking about some latest news for the US women's national team. But first, Reese, you need to get some sunglasses back. It's getting bright out there.
It is.
It is. Not at this
Lights are
time, of
getting
course.
bright.
It is 6:45 at night, but the lights are getting bright. You know, it's going to be... I was out there outdoors down in Tucson this past weekend and definitely could have done with some sunglasses. And of course, if you're going to pick sunglasses, why not go for some Shady Rays? Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to you. And you get 35% off using the promo code PHNX over on their website, Shady Rays. They're an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product. It's rated 5 stars with over 300,000 people. They're durable. They are genuinely very, very good. I see Max. You will never find Max without the Shady Rays, but right now we can't.
We can't find Max.
Max either, which is a problem. And of course, if you don't love them, you can exchange them for a new pair, or they have return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. And of course, go ahead, make the most of that deal. Head to shadyrays.com, use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses, and try for yourself. The Shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And of course, we're getting towards the end of the NBA regular season. You want to go out and check out Spinato's for their Suns watch parties. They are the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns, and those watch parties, they're going to have the Suns dancers out there, they get the gorilla out there, and they're doing a basketball contest right now. They're spelling pizza instead of horse, but you any good at that?
If there's pizza on the line, I will be.
I hear you play intramural basketball, so I feel like
We're
this
the
guy,
worst team in the league. 0-4. We play tonight. but-
This tells me that Rees could go and win this because pizza is on the line. You would win that.
If that's my motivating factor, I will.
Absolutely. And remember, it's Fanata's Pizzeria. They are the place to be for Suns fans. You can get all the info on those watch parties and the pizza basketball contest over at Spanataspizzeria.com. Spanata's is the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns. You really want that free pizza, don't you?
Who doesn't want free pizza? As long as Max
free
isn't
pizza free, yeah.
picking the toppings,
Absolutely.
I will take free pizza.
Absolutely. Make sure to leave a like now. Some other news to talk about here. The squad announced for the upcoming SheBelieves Cup, the US women's national team playing against Australia, Colombia, and Japan over the next couple of weeks. One of those games is going to be here in Glendale, playing up at State Farm Stadium. Let's have a look at the squad that US Soccer announced earlier this week. Rees, any notable things to pick out of this?
I mean, it's the first Alyssa Nair or post Alyssa Nair era window. So Jane Campbell and Mandy McGlynn, the two goalkeepers, called up. I also think only calling up two is a bit interesting in itself. But I mean, 115 appearances for Nair, a legend, just was always there, kind of mainstay post the Hope Solo era. So kind of sad to see her go. Also, Alex, not first window without Alex Morgan, but still another one that's weird to see her not be in there after being a mainstay for so long.
Right, and you've got some uncapped players in there. There are 4 uncapped players. All of them have played at the youth levels. All of them played at a youth level World Cup in the past, and it was 10 players as well who have 4 or fewer caps in this squad. So an interesting mix. It'll also be the first window playing under the new name for the player formerly known as Lindsay Horan and the player formerly known as Lynn Williams as well in there. So you're going to see a mix, I think, of some youth. You're going to see a mix of some established players in there, of course, going alongside some of the names that we've already brought out. I mean, you can look at players like Crystal Dunn, who's already got 155 caps for the US Women's National Team. And we did have a chance to chat earlier this week with US Women's National Team coach Emma Hayes. Here's what she had to say about kind of the aims going into the SheBelieves Cup this year.
One of the reasons why I've always been a senior coach is that I believe in building, development and winning all at once. And I say that not because I wouldn't make a great youth coach, but I do think you have to try and work towards all of them side by side. But I would say that this tournament is about developing the playing pool, the larger playing pool, and building a larger player pool so that come a World Cup down the road that we've got more players that are more experienced at playing within the national team setup. So we're in that phase of our development where those are the 3 key messages, and we're playing 3 tremendous opponents, so won't be easy. But what I'm hoping for is that, and you'll see this with the roster announcements tomorrow, that we'll get to see less experienced players exposed to more top level opponents, which I don't think we can ordinarily get throughout our calendar year. So I think it's going to be a good opportunity to measure ourselves up against 3 top class teams, and also take the risks that I think you need to integrate enough young players into the team.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one in that sense, right? Obviously, this comes in a year whereby there isn't a CONCACAF tournament coming up later this year. There isn't a FIFA tournament coming up later this year. So it's very much a time for just kind of building things up, knowing that a couple of years down the line, you are going to be moving into that phase. You are going to be looking then towards the CONCACAF W Championship. You are going to be looking towards the FIFA Women's World Cup coming up thereafter. And it gives you an opportunity to try and just integrate some of those new players. Now, is it against good opponents? Yes, it is. These are some of the better sides in women's football that you're going to see coming over here, especially given really that the way that the European calendar has evolved over recent years, right? When you look at how things are moving in the way that those qualifiers are, you see how busy they are typically during a lot of these windows, and it really limits the opportunity for friendlies. At times with the introduction of the Women's Nations League, with the introduction of more women's qualifiers, at times it feels it is always a busy calendar over there that prevents you from playing those teams so often, much like you see on the men's side. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, how you balance quite obviously any team coming up against the US women's national team is going to have that little bit extra on there. Just thinking about just wanting to play up a level and kind of prove something against one of the better teams in the world. Now, how you kind of replicate certain other parts of that, you obviously can't. The SheBelieves Cup, we have to also be honest, is functionally an invitational friendly tournament. You can't replicate all of the stress and the pressure that goes into more, much bigger games. But when you're in a position like this and you've got over a year before anything else is coming your way in terms of competitive fixtures, then this is definitely one of those things you have to make the most of.
Yeah, and comparing this roster to last year's SheBelieves Cup, obviously there was the Olympics tournament that the U.S. women's national team was preparing for, but it was Naomi Girma, Mallory Swanson, Sophia Wilson, Alex Morgan. Obviously, she's retired now, but Trinity Rodman in there as well. Now all those players not in the squad. It's much more of a youth-oriented squad, as we've been talking about, like the Angel City, the sisters from Angel City, Giselle and Alyssa Thompson getting call-ups. Lily Johannes from Ajax, she is one of the more highly touted youth prospects, 17 years old. So it's good to see Emma Hayes start to work in this younger roster. It is the perfect time to do it. Because, as you mentioned, it's the higher opposition, but games that only slightly matter. But again, it is, at the end of the day, it is a glorified friendly tournament.
Right. And let's have a look at those fixtures, though, for this one. As you look at who the US will be playing, they're going to start the campaign against Colombia in Houston on Thursday, the 20th of Feb. They then come over here for Sunday, the 23rd of February. They'll be playing over in Glendale. They'll be taking on Australia in that one following up after Colombia against Japan. Of course, tickets still available for that one at the moment. You can also see them then play in San Diego the following Wednesday the 26th. They'll be taking on Japan in the final game of the SheBelieves Cup over there. Now, Australia, the opponent here in Glendale, we did get the chance as well to hear from Emma talking about what kind of an opponent Australia are going to prove.
Well, I think it's always been a healthy rivalry between USA and Australia. I always get that sense from the players. Sam used to tell me that too when I had her at Chelsea. I think that with Tom Samani at the helm, albeit I don't know if it's interim or it's a permanent appointment. I don't know if it
interim.
is.
It's interim, yeah.
It is interim.
Yeah.
Tom's always set up his teams in a really organised way. So they changed the way they played against us in the Olympics to go to 5 at the back to deal with the threats that we posed. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again, but I could see there's another generation of player coming through. So maybe it will be an experimental time, regardless of result. Maybe we'll see their identity a little more in terms of that. But a very stubborn opponent, really difficult to... They won't give you anything easy. I think they're terrific on the counter-attack. I think they've got a player in Mary Fowler who's playing really, really well at this minute in time. I think she's going to grow into her own as a dominant player on that side. I'd say the same, in the young midfielder, his name's abandoned me, the girl at Arsenal, Kira Cooney. Yes, sorry, menopause is a killer. It took me 5 minutes to get to that. But I think she's having a very, very good season. So I think you're starting to see, like I said, I think there's a turnover of players coming through. So some of that might be a bit unknown, but I always know they're really, really tough games. Not much to separate two teams. And the same would be for Japan. Different opponent, much more technical. Again, new coach. So I think they'll be experimenting a little bit under Niels Nielsen. Now I know what his teams are like. And I think, Colombia, wow, what a physical opponent. It's going to be a player for player matchup, and I think that's going to be a tough game. But I'm so excited for it because I like really difficult opponents. I like the challenge of it.
All right, well, we'll be bringing you coverage of the US Women's National Team's visit here to Arizona for the first time since 2015 over on our social media. Make sure to follow it, PHNX__rising. We will be there on match day to bring you the latest from State Farm Stadium. Now, Rees, any other business we got to take care of before we get out of here?
Champions League.
Champions League. Give me the news, Rees. Come on.
Man City lost 3-2.
They did.
Another collapse. Erling Haaland, love to see it. Ederson, terrible.
Rees is
we
the
live for
biggest hater.
We absolutely live for Manchester City's downfall. Jude Bellingham, even though I am not the biggest fan of Jude Bellingham, I will say that. He scores the winner yesterday, so I might buy a shirt now of his after that goal.
I don't know if you can go quite that far. Can you?
No, I can't.
No, he can't. He can't. Any other news on that front that we found interesting from?
No, because all the other
Champions League?
playoff matches were kind of boring, to be honest.
Did you see Club Bruges, though?
Club Bruges with the win over
The
Atalanta.
controversial penalty.
I actually didn't get to see
the
this.
penalty call.
I'm
90+4.
I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube right now.
He's gonna pull that up and have a think about that one. I'm gonna kind of talk you through now as we come towards the end of. In fact, Rees, just
that's
pull
terrible.
it across. Pull it across.
That's
I gotta see it.
terrible.
Let's have a look. I'm watching this now live as. Oh my god!
That's awful.
Unless there's something else in
Yeah,
there that
unless like an
I'm
elbow goes
completely
high.
missing. Yeah, that's
awful.
Pretty atrocious.
That's a really weird penalty. I don't really know what happened there, to be perfectly frank with you. Do you have it? I mean, what happened?
Yeah, no, that's awful.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Well, if I was an Atalanta fan, my head would be on Mars. I wouldn't be able to stop talking about that.
Yeah. No, that's an odd one. What's this that the Devon's saying? Don't forget about the FA Cup.
Well, I mean, we can't forget about Everton's draw. I mean, the late
that's
winner.
true. That's true.
Scenes.
That's true.
We don't have to talk about Arsenal because pretty much every single forward's
That's
injured.
true.
And,
I mean,
our
hey,
title
there was
race is
the
over.
FA Cup as well. Shout out to Plymouth Argyle.
Cardiff too.
We went through. We've gone through. We're still going. We're still going.
It's a miracle.
We're still in the FA Cup right now. Liverpool aren't. Arsenal aren't.
Nope. Well, I mean,
You didn't want to be in it anyway, did you, Rees?
yeah.
Didn't want to be in it anyway. Tottenham aren't.
Yeah.
What a shame. Maybe that's why Max is avoiding us as well. Chelsea aren't. Damon's not in here either. But Cardiff are. Still going.
Miracle. You gonna pull off the upset over Villa?
Who knows? It's the FA Cup. Who knows? Who cares that much? We'll see. No, I mean, like they may not care. They got a Champions League game.
Yeah.
If you actually look at Villa's fixture list, they've got a league game in the midweek before, and they got a Champions League game in the midweek after. You never know how seriously then they're going to take that FA Cup fixture.
I mean,
That can be the
because they
challenge.
aren't playing great. To be honest, they're Unai Emery has been a bit up and down. They did sell a couple players, but
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, I think that's drawing us now towards a close. We'll be back here next Wednesday at 6:00 as usual. You're getting used to this time now, right?
I am.
Indeed.
Are you?
Yeah.
You know
we're
who's
getting
not?
used to it.
Matt. I bet Max
Max
shows up
Simpson.
Tuesdays, Thursdays.
He probably
He's
does.
just-
Max Simpson shows up on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He doesn't show up on a Wednesday. Max is.
I can confirm.
You can
That
confirm.
is true.
Max Simpson. You know what? Mr. Vacations. He may not even be here next week. Who knows? I'm hearing he may not be.
Yeah. Reports is Max will miss again.
Oh my gosh.
Will he be here the week
We
after?
might not see him again.
I don't even know if we're ever going to see him again. We'll see on that front, but we'll see if Max Simpson does show up next weekend. That'll be the test. Will Max be here? You can follow Max on Twitter, but it's better if you don't. You can follow myself on Twitter at OJEvans18, Rees on Twitter at Rees11_. You can follow producer Kyle on Twitter at KCoopSports, and you can follow the pod as always at PHNX__rising, because double the underscores.
Double the shows without Max. Actually, it's triple the shows now without Max. So
It's
I don't even know.
It keeps growing. It keeps growing. It keeps growing. And remember now, as we are coming up now to the last 30 seconds of our show, any final message for the people here, Rees?
Help us find Max Simpson.
If you find Max Simpson in the wild and tweet a picture of him. That has to be for now. Like, you're finding him today, tomorrow, next week, whenever. If you find him in the world and tweeted him, rumor has it that Max will buy you a beer.
And even if you don't find him, he'll buy you a beer too.
Indeed, he will. Remember, it is a beautiful game. We're going to rip off his line, but it's way more beautiful when you got to be quick.
The regular season starts. We don't have to talk about preseason football anymore.
Especially behind closed doors. Good night.
We all silly like the mayor.